Nicholas Alexiou, Department of Sociology and Hellenic American Project. Today we have, today which is July 14th, 2020, we have an interview with Miss DESPINA KANERIS SAMARAS, who is also a QC alumna. Despina, thank you very much for accepting to do this interview. It's very important for the Hellenic American Project Oral History Archives, and to see the new generation of Greek Americans and members and active members of the Greek American community.
It's my pleasure.
So let's start with the first level of questions that it is related to your biographical information, the general biographical information, where you were born and grew up, the family background, where the family came from, when they came, some of the reasons, if you know, and growing up in what language you use at home, ethnic food or music, all this. So tell us where you were born and grew up first.
So I was born and raised on Long Island in Belmore. My entire life, when we were little, we only spoke Greek in the house. I attended St. Demetrius School in Merrick for Greek school and Sunday school and Greek dance and all these different, every activity they had I was involved in from before school started. My mother was born in New York City and raised in Woodside, but her parents were both born and raised in Chios. So they came here when they were older. My yaya actually came here when she was about 7, from my mother's side. She came here when she was about 17, and she's been here for a very long time. And she actually, what strikes me is she's very modern in certain ways, but very like chodyo in other ways. But she came here when she was 17. My papa came a little later. Then my father came here when my father was born and raised in Chios. He was born in Chora, raised for a short period of time in a Chodyo called Tripes. And then when the school closed down in the Chodyo, he was sent to boarding school in a larger neighboring Chodyo called Walisot. And then when he reached time for high school, he attended a boys' high school, boarding school, not boarding school actually, Walisot was boarding school in Chora, called, I can't remember the name of it. I think Arenon. I think it's called Arenon School.
So growing up, you were close to the Greek American community in Merrick, in Long Island, right?
Yeah, very. My mother held every role within the Greek school, from secretary all the way up to board president, my entire time that I was there. And then my father was part of the parish council.
And as a child, you used to visit Greece at all?
So the first time that I went to Greece was in 1998, when I was about 9 years old. And then after, we didn't have a house there. We had property, but we had houses in the Choria, but the Choria are very far away from civilization. So at that year we spent about 2.5 months in the Choria. But then we built a house. The house we had in Chora finished being built in 2003. So after 2003, we started going every year.
And your presence of Greece and the island and the Greeks there?
So it's changed over time. When I was younger, we would only go to Chios. So we'd go take a direct flight from New York to JFK, from JFK to Athens, and then from Athens to Chios, and all I knew was Chios. I was very fortunate to have made a lot of friends when I was younger. My friends that I made, there weren't really any Doki in the Chodyo. All my friends from the Chodyo lived either in Athens or Thessaloniki or Australia or different places. Friends and relatives, because the Chodyo is very tiny, so I'm essentially related to the majority of them. And then as I got older, and when we had the house in Chora, I love Greece. I consider it my home 3 months of the year if I'm lucky, 2 months of the year. Now, since I've gotten married, we started going in the winter time. I was able to study abroad in Greece through Queen's College, which was really nice. That was my first experience with Athens. I studied in Plaka, and it was amazing.
The Acropolis Museum and all the antiquities there. Right.
So I studied abroad when they were still fixing the Acropolis Museum, and the professor that I had through the University of Indianapolis had some connections, so she was able to get us into the museum before it was open to the public. So we saw everything being installed, which was really unique.
This is fantastic. At the same time, while you're going to school here, and of course you lived in a community with a visible and strong Greek American community, you also had American friends in New York, in Long Island?
So my community, I guess you would say I have a strong Greek community because I live in Belmar, America's right next door, but my high school only had 2 Greek students in it, me being one of them. We didn't really have Greeks around us. I mostly hung out with my friends from church and from Greek school and from Goya. So from kindergarten all the way to senior year in college, my close-knit group of friends were not necessarily the friends I went to school with. They were friends that I went to Greek school with and Sunday school with. So not so much.
You had both Greek American friends, and also your connections you made in Greece, right? So all this happening at the same time. So you are a person who is also involved in the American community, in the American society, and also the Greek American community, and also Greece, right? It is this universality that you have as being a Greek American. Did you experience any discrimination of being Greek within your American friends or society?
When I was younger, when I was in elementary school, I did a little bit towards my 6th grade year. But I don't really remember. I always identified as being Greek and very proud, and at home we were only allowed to speak Greek. And then all my friends were not in my American, I was friendly with everybody, but my closest friends were, I wouldn't go home and have play dates with the girls from school. I would go home and have play dates with my friends that lived 2 towns over that went to Greek school with me.
So your ethnic identity, it is being a Greek in America, yes?
Yeah, it changes. I think 85% of the time it's a Greek in America, and then about 15% of the time it's Greek American.
How about when you are in Greece? Are you an American in Greece?
Growing up, I felt no. I felt that when I was in Chios, they knew that I wasn't from Chios, but because my knit group of friends there also weren't from Chios, we were all just people from the same chodio or people from the same island that were there. Now, as I get older, I feel more that they see me as being someone someone from outside of Greece. But when I was younger, I didn't feel that way.
Very good. Tell us a few things about your college years. Where did you go to college?
So I went to Queens College. I was very fortunate because, again, I grew up in a school where there was no Greek kids, no Greek anything. And I go to Queens College and we had the Greek club and we had Greek professors and we had Greek language classes. And I tried to take advantage, and we had a whole Byzantine and Center for Byzantine and Modern Greek Studies, which I never got to experience growing up. And I made so many new friends at Queens College through Ikaros, and even not in Ikaros, even friends that were not part of the Greek club that I met in my classes that were Greek. It was growing up, when I was out in the store and I heard Greek being spoken, or I saw someone Greek, or I went to a store that was Greek owned, I would be so happy and so excited, and I would start up a conversation. And then when I went to Queens College, not all the students were like that, because a lot of the students grew up in Astoria and they were used to that, and that was their norm. And it was very different. I was very excited to be involved in this Greek community where I felt that other people weren't as much.
Very good. And then you decided to major in education.
Yeah, my major was in mathematics, and my minor was actually in secondary education and modern and Greek language and literature.
And at the present, you are a teacher in a high school in New York State, in New York City?
Yes, I'm a teacher in a public high school within the DOE, New York City Department of Education.
Now with the new conditions of the COVID-19, how is your experience teaching children and kids now, this difficult subject of yours?
I am very fortunate to be part of a school that's only about, I think it's 6 years old. We've had two graduate. This is our third graduating class, so it's about, it's probably 7 years old at this point. And our administration is very forward thinking and forward moving, to the point where we've been using technology for the entire duration that I've been there. So I've been using the technology when we were in school, so it was a little bit of an easier transition for me than I've heard from other teachers from different schools. But it's difficult. You definitely need a lot of technology. You need a lot of resources. I'm fortunate to have a Microsoft Surface where I get to write on, in addition to MacBook. So I was fortunate that I had the technology, and that I'm really good with technology. And I feel like I was able to reach a large number of students larger than other schools. And I think my school was able to reach a larger population than other schools. So we're a little bit different. But it's definitely a learning curve. They say what necessity is the mother of invention. So I always had the idea that I wanted to try flipped classroom when I was teaching in school. And a flipped classroom is something where you assign students the lesson at home, and then they come into school and they watch a video at home, and they come into school and you do the practice. So you have more practice and less teacher direct instruction. And this kind of forced me to do that. So I'm looking forward to taking what I've learned through this experience and bringing it into the classroom whenever we get to go back.
What is to be a female and a professional? How the American society sees you, and how the Greek American society views you?
It's all I've known to be a female and a professional, so it's hard to compare. I think that the American society is used to having female as professionals. I also think that the Greek society is used to having female professionals, especially in today's day and age, because I think of all of my friends that live in Greece, and they're all architects or lawyers or accountants, and they're all in professional fields and not in different fields. I think I haven't felt anything different. Like, I think it's just normal for me. It's just normal.
And the family was always supportive regarding your education and your decisions, which field to follow and pursue.
Yes, my family was always very big on education and always promoted. My only job was school. They wanted me to choose a career to which they think would bring balance to my life. I chose teaching because I felt connected to the field. One thing that was very interesting is that they didn't want me to study to go away for school. They wanted me to stay home. So I remember, like, I looked at schools away, but my father passed away when I was younger, so my mother didn't want me to go. She wanted me to stay close, but both my parents always wanted me to be self-sufficient and independent. So they wanted me to not only have a career, but to be able to set myself up to be able to support myself 100% on my own, and know everything that's going on, just to be aware of everything and involved in everything.
And what about the local associations? They were supportive. There are scholarships. There are some kind of internship supporting young Greek Americans.
So when I was younger, I didn't know of any, but when I went to Queen's College, I didn't really know of it. It was brought to my attention that I was nominated. I received 2 scholarships at Queen's College through the Center of Byzantine and Modern Greek Studies, which was really nice because that's what got me connected to Pancheki Koreis, which I'm the vice president currently of. They offered me a scholarship. I wrote them a thank you card from Chios. I think I mailed it, and then one of the board members had reached out to me because I had written my phone number and said, if you ever need anything. I like to be involved in the Greek community very much so. So I said, if you ever need anything, please feel free to reach out. And then they did. And then I started just helping and volunteering whenever they needed something, and eventually got nominated to the board and then nominated vice president, which was nice. And that's really important to me because this year we have a new president who's really fantastic. He's trying to reignite the society and get more youth involved. And one way he's doing that is he had a vision of a scholarship fund being given separate from the donations that they make, separate from the scholarship for Queens College. And he initiated a committee, which I am a part of, to create scholarships for high school students of Heian descent and college students of Heian descent, which is something unique that hasn't existed before, to my knowledge.
I think your argument, your statement about the relationship of the college and with the community, it is very, very important statement to show the organic relationship that college can have with ethnic community. But tell us more about Korais. What is Korais? How is it related to the Heian Federation?
So, that's a hard question. Panhiaki Korais and the Heian Federation, they're actually separate societies. I know that the Heian Federation is a society that members can't be part of, but Khoria, like villages, are a part of. Panhiaki Korais is a society where individuals are part of, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Panhiakis was the first society to be formed in the United States. So it is I don't know if it's in the United States or in Chios, but it is the oldest one in New York. What I really like about Korais is that it values education. So it's named after Adamantios Korais, who there's a big statue of him in Chios, which is really nice. And he, from what I know, he is the one that wanted to preserve the Greek language. So essentially, if it wasn't for him, I don't know if the Greek language would still be preserved. So one of their big missions is education related. So that also stuck with me as a teacher. And they do a lot of things. So what they used to do that I really like is that they used to fund Heians from Chios to come to college in America. So they used to they used to essentially pay to bring them here, pay for their studies and pay for their living arrangements. And there's a lot of success stories that I know they're older members of the society that were products of that now have their families here, that now are very successful in their careers.
Your involvement with the Korais is, as you said, create scholarships is to continue the tradition, supporting education. Are there any more young people like you in the committees and forming the body of the?
I'm definitely the youngest in the executive board. Our new president is trying to get, there is youth involved. So we had a youth dance last year in Christmas. We're trying to get a lot more youth involved. It's a little difficult because a lot of the youth studies away from New York. So that makes it a little bit difficult, but we're trying to get a lot more youth involved.
Do you see if there is any difference within the community now with the younger generation from the time you were growing up and speaking Greek at home and using the language, and today's next generation? Do you see any different similarities, continuity, or the language is fading?
So I actually used to teach, I've like taught my entire life. When I was in high school and in college, I used to teach Greek school for kindergarteners at St. Demetrius in Merrick. What I would notice, not only there actually, and I also taught at St. Demetrius in Astoria, but what I've noticed throughout when I was teaching and throughout my own family, parents that work with their children on the language at home have children that speak Greek beautifully. Parents that don't, their children are losing the language. And a great example I have is that when I used to teach somewhere, there was a student who had one parent that was Greek and another parent that wasn't Greek, but the student spoke perfect Greek because of both her parents and her yayadis and bapudis worked with the child and made that a priority. We had other students whose both parents were Greek and their Greek was not so great because the parents didn't work with them and took it for granted. So I think that all depends on the parents and how much they value the language. Like my husband and I value the language very much. When I was little and when he was little, we both were only allowed to speak Greek in the household. My cousins not only have their children only speak Greek in the household. When they go to Greece and they were younger, they used to put them in pediki chara the entire summer to make sure that they kept the language. And these little kids that were born and raised in America would come back from Greece in the summertime and have little Greek accents, which was cute.
Can you say how you met your husband?
We met in Astoria. We met through St. Demetrius High School in Astoria. We were working there around the same time.
Mm-hmm. So Astoria is considered, or it used to be, a Greek city, a Greek town for many, many years. What Astoria means to you? Although now you live, you live for many years in Long Island, right?
My entire life I've lived in Long Island.
But Astoria was what for you?
Astoria, my yaya used to live in Woodside, so we would go to Astoria there. We'd go shopping growing up in Astoria for all Greek foods. My cousins that were older would take me to the cafeterias in Astoria. But it's like the center of the Greek community. I feel like it's the heart of the Greek community. We got married at St. Demetrius in Astoria. I loved working in Astoria when I worked there for about 2 years. It was a whole different experience. You felt the community there. Like there was such a strong Greek community and a sense of community. And when I was teaching those students there, I felt like I was teaching my family in the sense, like there's a very strong bond and connection to the Greek community when you're in Astoria.
And also this beautiful building that the Hellenic Federation has is also in Astoria with all the cultural events and other things they organize there. So if you had a chance to go and work and live in Greece, you think it as an option? Is Greece an option at some point?
I used to look into it actually when I was younger to go, but then I would have to, for my friends that are educators there, they essentially said the process is very difficult and you have to sign up and you're essentially wait in line for the government to place where you could work, and it's not guaranteed that you can work where you want to work. But we're established here on Long Island, right? So it's not feasible to leave now, but it's always an option. Like it's never something that I would say no to.
But as a teacher, since you have experience teaching the Greek language and be somehow to be close with young Greek Americans, do you think that the language will continue? Let's say if you had children, the next generation, they're going to continue speaking Greek, or they continue experiencing the culture, the ethnic culture?
I can promise you my children will, because we plan to only allow them to speak Greek inside the house. We plan to drive them from Long Island to St. Catharines in Astoria to make sure that they have Greek language every day and not just language once a week how I went to school. I think it's very important. I think that it saddens me to see a lot of Greek schools closing, a lot of private Greek schools closing. I wish there was one that taught Greek. I wish there were more public schools that made Greek a primary language. Like I teach at a public school where it's wonderful. It's like one of the best schools it's probably the best school that I've ever worked in. Every student graduates bilingual in Mandarin and English. I'd love for there to be a school like that where every student, Greek or non-Greek, graduates bilingual in Greek and English. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that is definitely possible, especially the Greek language is everywhere, right? It's the basis of everything. All these words.
Can you describe or have in mind some elements of Greek culture that are most important for you and you want to maintain and pass down to your children, to the next generation?
Definitely the language. That's probably one of the most important. The religion as well. I think what holds the Greek language and the Greek culture together in America is the church. I think that's how, I think without, like for me personally, without the church, I don't know where I would have gotten Greek language education or been part of a Greek community. Like I remember when I was younger, the Joy would do like koliva, like how to make koliva and what everything means, and would learn all these things in high school, in elementary school. And but definitely the language, the religion, every part of the culture I see, if I'm fortunate enough, I see myself going to Greece every summertime and keeping. It's hard to separate myself from the traditions because I identify with the traditions, and those traditions and the culture is all I know. So I'm not sure what's not the culture.
Next year, 2021, coincides with the bicentennial of the beginning of the Greek War of Independence against the Ottoman Empire. Do you plan as an association, as HELLENIC or the Korais, to have any events, or what that means to you, the 200 years anniversary?
So it's funny because that's a 200-year anniversary for the liberation of Greece. It's only been 100. Chios was liberated in 1912, November 11th, 1912. So we're not even close to that. I think we just had our 105-year anniversary of freedom. I'm not sure if they're planning to do anything yet. I know we just had our 105-year celebration of freedom. When we spoke about having this interview, it was prior to everything that was going on in Turkey, in Constantinople with Hagia Sophia. So we're 200 years free, but we have all these issues still occurring. And I know from growing up and spending my summers in Chios, we've had a lot of incidences where Turkey flies their military planes over the island, like very low, and it gets scary. Being born and raised in New York, like you don't experience military things there, right? So it's 200 years liberated on paper, but then I really wonder, I don't know. I'm not sure how to.
I'm sure that you are aware that Greece went through a 10-year of economic crisis, and after this crisis, now the pandemic. Your friends in Greece, how you felt about the economic crisis that Greece experienced, and how that affected your friends or yourself here in America?
So it was very hard to go every summer to see a lot of stores being vacated and a lot of things being empty. I can't say that I really experienced it because when I go to Greece, it's generally in the summertime, and in the summertime, everyone is happy and out. The friends that I have that were working, they had good jobs, so they kept working. So no one I personally know was really affected by it directly.
Mm-hmm. And now with the pandemic in the States, what is this experience for you, for your family, for your profession?
The pandemic, there's so many different viewpoints on it. Personally, I can only speak on my personal experience. It's nice to be home, and it's nice to be able to spend more time like cooking and learning how to make all these things that my mom or my mother-in-law make, that I'm learning too. So I've been very fortunate to be able to have that experience. It's more difficult to teach. I miss being in the classroom, and I miss my students, and I miss having that interaction in the same room, and I miss my colleagues. It's been difficult. It's been difficult to not get to see people or our parents. We would only see them for the 4 months. We would only visit our parents sitting outside 6 feet apart. We took everything very seriously. It's as if our life went on hold.
So no interaction with the grandmothers and.
Maya, yeah, mm-hmm. She's very wild. She's not afraid of anything. The one that came when she was 17. she would just drive here and she would just leave me whatever she had, like food or whatever she would make. She was so bored because she's very social, at the doorstep, and she would talk to me from outside the door. She didn't want to stay home. She just needed to be out.
This is a great story.
Yeah, she's
Also, at this moment in the United States and elsewhere, we experience this mass movement against racial injustice. You, as a teacher in a public school and growing up in a multi-ethnic and multiracial environment, how do you experience this? What is your opinion about that?
So I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood in the suburbs, and I was always taught to see everyone as equal and raised with the values to treat others the way I would want to be treated. Everyone, regardless of skin color, regardless of religion, regardless of anything. But I'm being made aware that that was a privilege, that I was able to be raised that way, and what I'm doing to help myself and my students and society. I'm learning more about things that I was never taught about. I never knew of these experiences. Like everything being brought to light now via social media is making me aware of situations and experiences I didn't know existed and occurred. I'm fortunate to work for a school that gave us the platform to not only acknowledge what happened, but also give us as a faculty and a team a safe space to speak about varying life experiences. And by hearing others' experiences, you're made aware of things that you don't know happened. And my school also gave us the opportunity to teach our students these things, about things that I never learned about in textbooks. For example, like the Black Wall Street or the Tulsa Massacre, I had never even heard about. Like I didn't know these things happened. I didn't know. There's so much that I didn't learn that were not in my textbook that I'm learning now because I'm seeking it out and researching. I'm in quarantine right now. What I'm doing is I'm reading a lot. I started with White Fragility. It's a book that I'm reading right now, which is kind of like a reality check about white privilege. And then the next book I have to read is The New Jim Crow. And just trying to educate myself. I'm not co-facilitating. I was asked to help facilitators on a professional development for teachers on teaching teachers about race. So I'm not facilitating it because I don't feel that I'm knowledgeable enough to facilitate it, but I'm helping in any way that I can with that facilitation and putting myself, it's a very uncomfortable situation. So I'm trying to put myself in these uncomfortable situations to grow and to learn, because I feel like that's how you grow, right? If you're in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. But if you're stretching yourself and putting yourself in these situations, that's how you grow and that's how you can do better.
What about the Greek American community? Historically, when Greeks first came to the States, they weren't exactly considered as whites. It took them many years to be accepted. And we have various interactions by Greeks in America and the African American community. An example is the sponge divers in Tarpon Springs who hired blacks to their works, or Greek Americans who own restaurants in the South. They serve the black community. Over the years, since the Greeks became accepted as whites in America, do you think that they understand the concept of racism? Are they resisting? They're indifferent? They're racist? Is the Greek American a community that understands the issue of racism and inequality in the States?
It's hard to speak for other Greek Americans, so I'm not sure. I know that in
the institutions, not the individuals, but our institutions, the media, the church, the ethnic organizations.
I mean, in terms of the church, I can say that the church is accepting of everyone, regardless of skin color. And I know because I grew up with friends or with, well, they were younger, but with people with Black Greek Americans or Black Americans or Black Greek Orthodox. So I know that the church is accepting of everyone. I've never been in a situation where I was able to see that, to know to know the stances that they had. Yeah, I'm not sure.
And of course, you went to a college that it is so, multicultural, lingual, and Flushing is one of the most diverse places, in America. So I think that explains the various interactions. As we come to a conclusion to our interview, you have some remarks regarding the Greek American community, and especially about young female students.
Yeah, get involved. I think for the Greek American community to continue to exist, everyone needs to get involved and participate and make it a priority to make sure that wherever they're from or wherever they see a Greek society or an opportunity to be involved, just to get involved and keep it alive. Because I think that if people stop being involved and if people stop caring and all they think about is going to Greece in the summertime and then coming back and not doing anything with the community, I think that the community in America will disappear.
And what do you think will interest them to involve? Because for the first time in the experience of Greeks in America, the American-born population, it is higher, is larger than the Greek-born. So basically, the new generations, including yourself, they are Americans of Greek descent. So what do you think it will be the future, since they are Americans, how they select or how they choose to behave or act Greek? Do you think we need a change in our institutions, or it has to be another force, a new institutions by the new generation to continue? You said the language is one of them.
I think it's a joint effort. I think that it's a joint effort between the old institutions helping the new institutions, helping the younger generation or the new generation create new institutions that are with the time. I think it also has to do with Greece too, right? I don't know how much they value. I don't know. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not sure. I see like my friends that are Jewish and their country funds them to go to Israel and to do their birthright and do all these things, which I know they have the money to do that country. Greece doesn't necessarily have the means of doing that. But if we had ways like that through smaller societies to make that happen, maybe we can connect more Greeks to their history and to their...
With study abroad programs or studying in Greece. Also, within the community, there is a debate for some time now regarding the vote for the Greeks abroad. At the moment, if Greek Americans who have all their qualifications, Greek passport or other technicalities, and they are eligible, in order to vote or participate in the national election of Greece, they have to have physical presence. So one of the demands that Greek Americans have is if they can have the absentee ballot to vote while staying here. And the second demand is that Greek Americans want to have political representation in the Greek parliament. But of course they live here and they're going to participate in the decisions making in Greek politics. So what is your position regarding the vote?
I think that would be great to have an absentee ballot. I think that requires whoever's voting to take the initiative to learn about Greek politics and make sure they're aware of the politicians and not just listening to the media, because the media, like the American media, is very flawed in promoting their own biases. And I think as long as, I know the younger generation is definitely more knowledgeable in doing research and learning about candidates, both here and abroad. I think that would be great. I would definitely appreciate that consideration to be able to have an absentee ballot and take that responsibility to learn about the candidates and learn about what they stand for, and how the knowledge I have living here and all the good things that I know work here to try and implement that in Greece as well through my vote. And I think Greek American representation, I think that would be phenomenal. I know that before COVID-19 happened, we had a representative from HELLENIC come, who was here, I'm not sure why he was here, but he was in America for something, talk about issues in HELLENIC with the border crisis before things happened there. Just bring that to our attention, and the biggest thing was like, what can we do? Like, we have a society, we can do fundraising, but what do we actually, like, what could we physically do other than that? And it's really nothing. Like, I don't know what, we don't really have that many options to help with because we don't have representation there. So I would love if we could.
Fantastic. It's an excellent response. And you have the last word. What you want to say to your students, to the Greek American students, to your American students, to your friends in Greece and former classmates from Queen's College?
Just for everyone to keep being involved and to keep the language alive and to keep the culture alive and not to lose your connections and to keep educating yourself. Like, I'm learning every year. I mean, this past summer, I went to Vergina for the first time and I learned about all of that history there. I don't know if you've ever been to that museum, but it's fantastic. And just keep learning and keep educating yourself and being aware of what's happening, both politically in Greece and in America, and try and make the best decisions you can for society as a Greek American.
Despina, thank you very much for this interview today, July 14, 2020. We appreciate your interview, and I think the future researchers will find an interest point of view of young Americans of Greek descent, Greeks in America, and their vision about the future of our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Ying, let's stop